Hey, Keto Freaks. Here's an update on Keto Fest. We have a date, the weekend of July 15th and 16th, 2017. Keto Fest is a ketogenic festival for everyone, not just doctors and nutritionists. Richard Morris and I, along with a host of keto rock stars, are turning the entire coastal town of New London, Connecticut, ketogenic the entire weekend of July 15 and 16. Some of the best minds in keto have already said they want to come and speak, including Jimmy Moore, Megan Ramos, Ivor Cummins, Dr. Jeff Gerber, Dr. Eric Westman, and Dr. Ted Naiman. We'll have an outdoor food festival with live music, fitness lessons, cooking lessons, walking tours, bike tours, Segway tours, movies on the historic Guard Theater's 60-foot screen, and of course, great talks by our rock stars. We'll be doing a Kickstarter campaign soon to sell tickets. Meantime, go to ketofest.com and register. Keto Fest, real keto for real people. Welcome back to Two Keto Dudes. This is Carl Franklin from Connecticut in the United States. And in February of 2016, I put myself on a ketogenic diet to take control of my metabolism. In just 2.5 months, I managed to reverse all my markers of type 2 diabetes with diet alone. As of now, I'm 80 pounds lighter with no signs of diabetes or heart disease.
Hi, I'm Richard Morris in Canberra, Australia, or at least I'd normally be in Canberra, Australia, but today I'm actually in Connecticut at Carl's studio, and we're recording this live, so you won't notice any international delays.
That's right.
So I've been on a ketogenic diet for almost 3 years now, and when I started, I was very sick with complications from type 2 diabetes. Within 6 months of starting a ketogenic diet, all of my biomarkers of disease had disappeared. I've also lost about 80 pounds, and I've completely turned my health around.
And this show is both a document of my progress through ketosis and Richard's experience thriving for 3 years now in ketosis. And hopefully that might help a few people who are curious about this kind of dietary hacking.
Yeah, we're not doctors. We don't want to give anyone any medical advice, but we're keen to share our own experiences. We're actually both software developers, so we're not afraid of a little technical detail, are we, Carl?
Nah.
We've done some research into our own deranged metabolisms and the science behind them, and we hope to share some of that research. Where possible, we intend to put links in the show notes to cite research supporting any claims that we make.
And you'll probably work out pretty quickly that we're both foodies.
Oh, yeah.
We love to cook, and we love to eat.
Mm-hmm.
In every episode, we both share a keto recipe that cannot be ignored.
No, it cannot.
So let's start podcast number 58, Switching It Up with Megan Ramos.
Yeah.
Richard, do we have any corrections or apologies from last week?
No, I think Dr. Fatke has a rough understanding of how all this works.
Yeah, I think so.
So no, there are no corrections or apologies.
All right, well, let's revisit what a ketogenic diet is.
Sure. So a ketogenic diet is under 20 grams of carbohydrates, that's sugar or starch, per day, and that forces your body to become good at burning fat. We get all of our energy from burning fat, and the other macronutrient, which is protein, we just get enough to maintain our body. We don't want to use that for calories. So all of our calories are coming from fat.
Turns out that protein is still insulinogenic.
Yeah.
But half as much as
carbohydrates. But the whole goal of the ketogenic diet is to dramatically lower your insulin.
Yeah.
And especially for people who are insulin resistant, like Carl and myself, type 2 diabetics like us, when we lower our insulin, our body fat releases energy, and it means that we can use fat from our bodies. We don't have to eat fat anymore, pretty much. So it really allows you to lose weight very quickly and also to stabilize your glucose, which for a type 2 diabetic is a very important thing.
And type 1 diabetics, too.
That's right.
We should call out the Facebook group for type 1 diabetics.
Yeah, type 1 Grit is a great Facebook group for people who are trying to manage type 1 diabetes with a low-carb diet.
Yep. And it turns out that's a good idea, too.
Yeah.
So we have an interview with Megan Ramos coming up here that we did a few weeks ago in Breckenridge, Colorado, while we were at Low Carb Breckenridge.
Yes, that's right. It was a great event. Megan works with Dr. Fung in his clinic, and she does all of the work, and
Right.
Dr. Fung does all of the YouTube.
That's right. Do we say that out loud?
No, I think we did.
She does. She's the one who's interacting with the diabetic patients on a day-to-day basis.
That's right.
Dr. Fung also does that, but on top of that, he's a kidney doctor, and he's seeing people about kidney problems as well.
We had a great sit-down with Megan. She came to visit us for dinner at our Breckenridge house, and we had a great dinner. And
some ribeyes, I remember.
Yeah, it was delicious. Yeah. And then we spent some time with her later on, sat down, and we recorded a podcast. And we actually did the video, which is unusual for us, but since we were both in the same country and, in fact, in the same room at the same time, we thought we may as well shoot some video. So
you'll see the video linked in our show notes as well.
Yeah, it'll be a behind the scenes, here's the videoing of a podcast.
Right, uncut. All right, well, I guess that brings us to...
Mail!
We're justified and we don't need no alibi.
I still love being in the same room.
Yeah, it's great.
So, Carl, what have we got?
All right. I've got a message from our forum, and this is in the Show Me the Science category.
Right, that's the ketogenicforums.com.
At www.ketogenicforums.com or forum.2keto.com.
Yep.
Easier still. All right, and this is from someone who says, hey, I'm a healthy 33-year-old with an A1C of 5.3.
Well done.
Yep, same over the last 10 years, but 3 of my grandparents and mom struggle with diabetes. I saw so many of my mom's eating patterns in myself and decided to get off my carb addiction, so I started the keto lifestyle mid-January.
Nice.
Yeah. As a result, my skin looks better, my joints aren't cracking as they used to, I assume reduced inflammation.
Yep, that's probably what it is.
Yep. I sleep better and I wake up more easily. I stopped taking Adderall for ADD. Well done.
Yeah.
I'm overall happier, have less anxiety, I have more energy. And I'm a preschool teacher and I need lots of it.
Yeah.
And I told her that. I respect my doctor's knowledge, education, and time invested in earning her degree, but she didn't support my decision with all the good this lifestyle does, which I thought might happen. I didn't mind her not agreeing with me, but her job is to offer lab tests and other ways to track my health. Since she was pretty passive and I felt ignored, I found a highly recommended, described as open-minded GP doctor, that's general practitioner,
sure,
which I have an appointment with on Tuesday. This is where I need your help. I'd love to bring with me to the appointment the most updated and reliable research out there about this lifestyle. My goal is for him to work with me to monitor my health.
Sure.
Regardless of his own personal belief. Who knows, he might get interested enough to convert. Would you kindly link me so that I can show him the science? Thank you in advance, and best health to you all. And yes, I have an answer. A while ago, I put together a blog post on blog.2keto.com, which is essentially 3 major studies that show the safety and efficacy of a ketogenic diet. The first one is a study of both animal and human subjects following a ketogenic diet for more than 6 years, with nothing but good results. And that's important because a lot of people who have heard of, low carb or Atkins or whatever, they love to play the yes, but we don't know the long-term effects card.
Yeah.
So then there's a 2014 meta-study, which means that it's a review of 76 observational and randomized controlled trials with more than 650,000 participants total, that found those with a high saturated fat intake did not have an increased risk of heart disease.
And that's normally where doctors have an issue with the low-carb diet, because the low-carb diet is, in theory, a high-saturated fat diet, or
That's
it is
right.
compared to the low-fat diet.
Yeah.
And so they have an obvious and understandable concern, because we've spent 40 years trying to lower people's saturated fat.
Right.
This study shows that high saturated fat isn't related to,
No, it's not related to anything.
to increased risk of heart disease.
Yeah, right. And so the next thing that they're going to notice is that your cholesterol is going to go up. And
Right.
now they're going to be concerned about high cholesterol,
Doesn't always go up. For some people, it goes down. For some people, it stays the same, and some people
Right.
it goes up. So,
which is indicative of the fact that cholesterol isn't a good marker for heart disease.
right, and it's just how you're moving energy around your body.
Yeah, as we learned from Dave Feldman,
That's right.
hacking your cholesterol.
Mm.
So this is a study of 138,000 people admitted to U.S. hospitals with a heart attack,
Right.
and cholesterol was measured, and the average cholesterol was 105.
Wow, that's lower than the general population.
Absolutely.
So I guess going to a hospital with a heart attack is a cause of low LDL.
Yeah. That's right. So you can see that there isn't a correlation between high LDL and heart attacks
Right.
based on this study. Now, that's 138,000 people, and the average cholesterol level was low.
Yeah.
So non-correlation, guess what? Non-causation. Yeah.
I think one interesting thing about this letter is that the viewer says, I'm a healthy 33-year-old with an A1C of 5.3. That's where her glucose is.
Yeah.
And she says that 3 of her grandparents struggle with diabetes. Her insulin could be way high.
It could be.
But nobody's measuring it.
Yeah.
And it's the exposure to insulin chronically over time that causes the disseminated vascular disease that causes cardiovascular disease and all of the complications of diabetes.
Right.
So, unfortunately, an HbA1c, it tells you what your glucose control is, but it doesn't tell you about the underlying disease of diabetes.
Right. And in fact, by the time your A1C is over 7,
right,
you've got it.
You've had it.
Too late.
For 20 years.
Yeah, we talked about Dr. Kraft's insulin assay.
Right.
He was able to predict diabetes 15 years beforehand.
Yeah.
Yeah, with a simple test. So, so essentially, if your glucose is okay, but your insulin is high over time, watch out.
Yeah, your glucose will rise.
That's right. And you will get diabetes.
Ouch.
Yeah.
So I've got another mail item from Brenda Zorn.
Yay!
Yay, Brenda. Brenda says that she is down 4.5 pounds since starting a steak challenge last Tuesday.
Steak challenge.
Yeah. She and Donna Lordy, these are 2 of our admins, are eating as much steak as they want, as fatty as possible, and just as a challenge to see what it does.
For 30 days?
For 30 days.
Wow.
And they're doing tests before and after to see what happens. And so Brenda says, yesterday I ate 2.5 pounds of beef steak.
Oh, wow.
So she's eating over 2 pounds of steak a day, and she's lost 4.5 pounds since starting this challenge.
And no vegetables, no nothing, just steak.
Just steak. No vegetables, nothing.
Now, is
No
she putting
cream,
salt and...
No butter, no. I
Yeah.
guess she's salting it,
Yeah, she's putting salt on it.
Yeah. So she says, this is exciting. I figured initial loss of inflammation and the weight loss would stop. Nope. And the bonus, I'm not keeping my usual 20/4 IF window. That's 20 hours fasting, 4 hours eating. Sometimes I fry up a steak right when I wake up. Last night I fried one up at 11 p.m.
Wow.
I feel like such a carnivore.
Yeah.
She says this steak challenge wasn't entered into to lose weight. It was purely out of curiosity. Science, blood glucose levels, ketones, curiosity. And my pal Donna Lordy, who loves a challenge just as much as me, this was her idea. And Donna says, meat is so unhealthy. That must be why my blood pressure has dropped 10 points after a week, nearly.
Wow.
So, and she is currently, her BP is 120/81.
That's amazing. That's perfectly normal.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
So thanks, Brenda and Donna, and keep calm and keto on, girls.
Right. All right, and that brings us to our interview with Megan. As we said, Megan Ramos works for Dr. Jason Fung at his clinic in Toronto. She works with diabetic patients. She has a lot of clinical experience, and this is why we wanted to talk to her, because she's on the ground every day talking to diabetic patients, working up fasting regimens, intermittent fasting, ketogenic diets, long-term fasting, all of those things. And we came to this great realization of switching it up, which was the theme of our talk. So without any more fanfare, let's get to the interview. Megan Ramos, welcome to Two Keto Dudes.
Yes.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on.
Well, thanks for being here. And it's great to be here in Colorado where it's ridiculously cold and I can't breathe.
There's a ton of snow, and I'm from Canada, and I've never seen this much snow. It's really quite insane.
Toronto, right?
Toronto, yeah. We're like the wimpiest Canadians across the country. So this kind of snow I've never seen in like 32 years of living there and never anywhere else. But it's chilly.
And you live at altitude, but not this high.
Not this high, no. I'm about 3,000 foot, 1,000 meters, but we're at 9,600.
And I'm pretty much living at sea level. So this is really bad for me, but I've adjusted. The reason that I wanted to talk to you, and Richard and I wanted to talk to you, is that I was listening to your fasting podcast with Jimmy Moore, which is great, by the way. And congratulations on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you said something that just struck home, which is, when you're stalled, switch it up. If you're fasting, eat a lot of fat and then stop and then go back. And your body likes to be kept guessing. It becomes complacent with what you're doing.
You don't want to do one meal a day. Everybody, like patients come in and everybody's so excited. They're like, I'm doing a 24-hour fast every day of the week. And they lose weight for a week or two, maybe 3 if they're lucky, and then flatline. And patients say, but we don't understand why. We're fasting every day of the week. But you're giving your body the same amount of energy every day of the week. You're giving it the same energy expenditure every single damn day of the week.
Right.
So your body processes will slow down to adapt to that new budget. It's like if your company was taking a hit in 2017, you own a contracting company, for example, and you had to have both knees done. You weren't going to be able to work, like knee replacements. I mean, sorry guys, we just knees done is sort of the medical lingo. But you had to get both knees replaced in 1 year. Like you wouldn't be working that much, but by 2018, you'd be good to go. And, in 2018, you can double up the work. But you would slow down your lifestyle in 2017 because you wouldn't have that income. So maybe you wouldn't go to the movies. Maybe you just get a Netflix subscription, but you wouldn't be going to the movies every week. Maybe you'd be eating out less. Maybe you take public transit. You would adjust your lifestyle to accommodate a new budget.
And it's, the same thing that Jason says, your body is really smart. Let's give it some credit.
It slows down. It wants to preserve it. Your body is not your enemy. Your body wants to keep you alive as long as it physically can. So it's like, okay, we'll go into preservation mode and slow everything down. But when you're trying to fix somebody who's metabolically damaged or who's metabolically not in their ideal place, and so if they wanted to lose weight, you don't want to slow down your metabolism. You want to beef it up.
Yeah.
And so I talk to the patients this. I have a friend, this is a true story. She flipped into real estate last year, and she had an amazing year. Like Toronto real estate market's just insane. Hopefully it crashes before I have to buy another house.
You shouldn't wish that.
But she had a great year. She made all kinds of money and was able to save so much. And she said, well, why should I be paying somebody for rent? Let's make an investment. Went to go to the bank to get a mortgage, and they said, no way. Sorry, you only have 1 year of income as a real estate agent. You need 3 because maybe 2017 is going to suck. And maybe 2018, you might quadruple what you made in 2016. And you could afford a bigger mortgage than you could now. We need to find an average somewhere in the middle. So when you have years that stink, we know that you're still going to have years to offset and that you'll be able to save that money to carry it over. And that's what intermittent fasting does. We're designed to feast and to fast. We're designed to have really, really high energy intake days and days of really low energy intake. And then our metabolism sits somewhere nicely in the middle. So on days where we fast, our metabolic processes are still running really high, which forces us to actually burn body fat. So if your body is demanding like 2,500 calories worth of energy on a fasting day, because that's what you're keeping your metabolic rate at, and you're not eating, then you've got to start dumping that from fat stores. So if you're eating like 3,500 calories on your eating day, like you're finding a middle ground there. And that's how you lose weight during intermittent fasting.
So the reason that this hit home with me And you know, because we did that whole eating patterns show where when we first discovered intermittent fasting and wow, I had a plateau and all of a sudden I'm not plateaued anymore. We told people this is a pattern.
Yeah.
But what we didn't tell people and what
we didn't know at the time,
know at the time was that it goes both ways.
It has to go both ways.
Yeah.
We never I shouldn't say we never. We rarely do 24-hour fasts with patients because what happens when you start fasting, of course, your appetite subsides. And then you start eating these high fatty foods, which are so much more satiating. So you're taking in a lot less. So then patients who are doing a 24-hour fast would break their fast with like a 600, 700, 800 caloric meal, primarily from fat, which is great. But then on their eating days, they weren't really hungry. So they maybe would have a hard-boiled egg at lunchtime with a little salad. And then they'd have that regular dinner.
Yeah.
So there's really only like a couple hundred caloric difference between each day. And then they plateau. And they're doing the same thing day in and day out. So we just stop it. Like for patients who are very new to fasting, who come into our clinic and are very skeptical about it, but know that it is something that is going to work. I had a lady I talked to last week and she's like, I know I need to fast. I get the science, but I've never gone 2 hours of my life where I've been conscious and haven't eaten something.
Oh, I can relate. I can certainly.
She's like, I'm totally leery about it. And she's like, I'm scared of the keto flu when I start fasting.
Yeah, the big one I hear is I can't afford to be sick because I have to work and I have kids and all this stuff. I can't afford to have keto flu, so that's why I'm not starting. Yeah, I hear that all the time.
I hear that a lot too. With those patients, we recommend MCT oil or coconut oil just to sort of help get them through initially for those exogenous ketones. They're pure exogenous ketones. So for those patients who are skeptical, I mean, they're training wheels to help a patient get through. So MCT oil or coconut oil. Patients do better on coconut oil and MCT oil when they're new to fattier diets. The MCT oil gets digested so rapidly. Sometimes it causes GI upset or disruptions and then diarrhea. But the coconut oil, because it's a mixture of different lengths of fatty acids. Like you have the medium and some longer. It's slower because of the longer chains. So that tends to not disrupt. So for those people, we say it's like your brain fuel then if you do need it and can't go cold turkey.
So another thing that's interesting, I talk to a lot of people, we do, right?
Yeah.
I remember talking to John Sonmez on his podcast, and he's a buff weightlifting guy, and he only eats one meal a day, but he's in maintenance mode.
That's fine for maintenance
and that's
mode.
what makes sense. So I've been eating one meal a day since I've been plateaued.
Yeah.
I've been pretty much doing that, the same thing. And then when I heard you guys saying this, I was like, the light bulb went off.
When your body weight set point is where you want it to be, where your metabolic processes are functioning the way you want it, then freeze it.
Yeah.
By slowing everything down and preserving it. At that point, your body has become a Ferrari. And you're not going to drive your Ferrari back and forth across the continent. You'd buy that car that you don't care about keeping, and if it breaks halfway down, then you can get rid of it, right? You don't want to wear and tear it. So when your body has become that Ferrari and it's perfect and you want to freeze it and isolate it, then having one meal a day and a lower caloric intake overall is actually very good for longevity because it will sort of preserve things in that state. It won't wear and tear. But when you're trying to fix things, you need to work them out to make them healthy and make them stronger again.
So practically speaking, I think you mentioned a 3-day fast is really good because on the third day, that's when your HGH, your human growth hormone, peaks.
Yes.
And then to eat 4 days. So 3 days fasted, 4 days eating.
I think
like that
time I was talking about on the third day of fasting around 72 hours, that's when the human growth hormone really starts to peak. So I was talking about for my 30th birthday, I was diagnosed with osteoporosis.
That's
happy
awesome.
birthday.
Congratulations
Right?
and happy birthday.
I was like, I was depressed. Do I need Botox? What's going to happen? Like that was just killer. But I had consumed a lot of phosphoric acid acid in
Yeah.
excess quantities. So I wasn't really surprised. I knew my body composition, even though the number on the scale was pretty, but that number on the scale is composed of water, fat, muscle,
Right.
bone.
Yeah.
And so the number on the scale is useless.
It is, yeah.
And so I knew it didn't really mean anything. So I had this osteoporosis way to enter my 30s. So that year I said, okay, I need to actively put on bone. So I was doing sort of maintenance. I had lost 80 pounds. I had reversed the diabetes, the PCOS, the fatty liver. So I was trying to freeze frame
Yeah.
my body. But I said, okay, I need to get this human growth hormone. So for a lot of patients, we encourage them to go beyond 3 days because they're not in a ketogenic state.
Right.
So the third day is the hardest because their body's
Yeah.
transitioning.
Right.
But my ketones are always happy. My
Yeah.
fasting glucose is in the high 50s. My ketones are
Nice.
always in the 3s or 4s, depending on if I'm fasting. So on the third
That's
day of
great.
the fast, I still feel like
Yeah.
a party, right?
You can really switch your fuel from glucose to fat easily. Yeah.
So I'm always good. So I would do the 72-hour mark just to get that growth hormone production, and I would do it about every other week.
Right. So you're
Because-
still switching up week by
Mhm.
week.
yeah.
Not just one set thing per week, but every week you're switching
Yeah,
it.
the weeks in between, there's certain days. Jason and I are just crazy busy, and I mean he has a whole nephrology practice going on. So on Tuesdays, I literally don't have time to eat, and at one point in the middle of the day, I'm supposed to be in 2 places at once, and they have yet to clone me.
Yeah.
So unless
Oh,
they
Jason's
clone
working
me,
on that. I know
maybe
he is.
if they clone me, then maybe one of the Megans can eat. But I don't have that luxury on Tuesdays with my schedule, and I don't get home till 8 or so at night. And I don't want to eat
Wow,
too
long
close
hours.
before
Yeah.
bed. And I'm not hungry anyways. I just want a cup of tea, and I want to sit and not move and stare at a wall usually by Tuesday evening. So I would do a 24-hour fast then, and then every other Friday I do sort of a talk that goes all day long. So there's really no time to eat. I usually have to escape the room at the start of a break before I get pounced on by people. So in between, I would end up doing a couple 24 or 36, 42-hour fasts. Well, I never do a 36 because I'm not a big breakfast person. On the weekends,
Right.
we have brunch,
Yeah.
but not breakfast. So I would fast from Monday nights to usually Wednesday at lunchtime.
Well, I really, really appreciate this insight because, I kind of was thinking it's either, one meal a day or a 7 or 8 day fast. And there's like, the stuff in between is just
Yeah.
sort of, why do that?
It's important.
It's so-
I tell patients to fast more and I tell patients to eat more. I tell
Yeah.
patients to eat more just as much as I tell them to fast more.
Right. So
And
I
they
guess at any
laugh.
moment you need to decide, am I fasting? Okay, I'm not eating anything. Am I eating? All right, well, bring it on.
Yeah.
None of
Enjoy.
Yeah.
Always don't force yourself to eat beyond satiation, but
Yeah.
don't limit yourself, and definitely don't get in the habit of doing the same thing every day. For patients who are adamant that they're going to stay in a 24-hour fasting regimen, and some patients have to, like our dialysis patients and congestive heart patients, we don't let them fast beyond 24 hours because of the fluid restriction, and we don't want them to get dehydrated or feel like garbage. So they're capped. Like they're one group of or two groups of patients we absolutely cap at 24 hours.
Sure.
So for them, it's like whatever you eat that day, you have to double that amount on your eating days to compensate for your fasting days. There has to be a variation.
Yeah.
Even if you were to eat 1,500 calories primarily from fat on your fasting day, you need to be eating like 3,000 calories. And I have patients who do that. They just have this massive meal, and on the other days, they have 2 massive meals, and they still lose weight.
Yeah.
They still lose an incredible amount of weight compared to somebody that would have like one small 500-calorie meal and have 2 smaller meals on their eating day. They lose the same amount of weight. So we're designed as human beings to fast and to feast. So whenever I plateaued in my journey, I'd look at my social calendar and say, I need to be fasting more. I need to feast more to to get things going again.
Right.
So if my social calendar looked really lame,
you'd
then
be eating more.
Fast.
Oh, you'd be fasting.
Fasting, If there was nothing going on, but if there was a lot of parties, I'm like, all right, this is I'm tiny. And I'd be like, I'll eat 2 pounds of bacon at once and half a carton of eggs and 2 avocados in a day. Like really sort of gorge on those fats. I'm Italian, despite this, and my last name is from marriage. My family's from northern Italy.
Yeah.
So
you don't have a lot of body fat, though. Do you still fast?
So right now I'm still working on the osteoporosis. So I'm at borderline osteopenia. So I'm going to be 33 this summer. My goal for my 33rd birthday.
To be normal.
Yeah, I'm going to have a DEXA scan and hopefully I'll have normal bone mass density. So, birthday goals as you get older.
So I had 2 DEXA scans recently and I put on 4.1% of bone mineral density. I have no understanding of how, because during that time I was low protein. So and I was also off my bike because I had a knee injury, and so I wasn't doing the exercise I was
taking
doing.
all that good things from your diet with the growth hormones there, and it's putting them to work. Like if you have bone broth, all of the good minerals in that. And even if like low protein, but all of the leafy greens, all of the vegetables have all of the materials we need to grow bone. So you don't have to be going to the gym and pumping,
doing weight
all
bearing
kinds
exercise.
of weight. You can actually do it with a healthy diet.
Wow. So is it important to feast first and then fast afterwards?
I think that works best.
Because the feast is going to set your BMR up, your body, your basal metabolic rate up high, and then when you go into the fasting state, you're really going to burn off a lot of body fat.
I always encourage patients to eat more fat before they're going on fast. Particularly, I had a group of patients last week, and for some reason, everybody in that group wanted to try like 7 days of fasting, which is great. I mean, it was doctor approved, and we see them very frequently. So we're like, okay. And they said, what can we do to prepare? And I said, just gorge on fat, having the avocados every day.
Macadamia nuts work for me.
Macadamia nuts, so avocados in particular. So we have to be careful with potassium recommendations, but these 4 patients didn't have any potassium restriction in their diet. So I said, potassium, you get avocados, you're going to boost that potassium. You're going to sail through that 7-day fast.
Right.
I had a patient recently who started in the long distance program, and he was really struggling.
Long distance means from other countries?
Yes. So he's actually, so we work with patients from a fasting and nutritional perspective, but we don't follow them medically from outside of Canada and across Canada if they can't come into the clinic. So this particular gentleman was from California, the San Jose area, and his diet was pretty good. His wife was sending me photos of everything she was making, and it looked pretty good. Like I felt like it was satiating and there was enough fat there, but he was struggling so much with the fast. And he said, the only day that I never struggled with the fast was the day after I really went gun-ho with it. And I had like an avocado with each meal, and I just really ate a lot of fat. And I was like, then let's do that again,
do it again.
And now he's started doubling his intake.
What do you and Jimmy say? Exercise your fasting muscles. Keep doing it like
Jimmy
you work
started
out.
that, so that's Jimmy, but it's stuck in my head, and my patients laugh because I say it all over
That's
the
great.
time now.
That's a great way.
But
to
it's
think
a
of
great way, and fasting too is like exercise.
Yeah.
It just takes time getting used to it. I had heart procedure done at the end of 2015, and they said I couldn't work out or do anything for 6 months, and so that was fun. And then after 6 months, wedding season started. My husband quit exercising in support of me even though he lived in a different country at the time.
He could have gotten away with it.
He could have gotten away with it.
I think we have so much more to talk about than just fasting. Fascinating life.
So we moved into the city, and there's all these great gyms. So I started looking into them. I'm like, I really want to get toned before babies and like put on a lot of like muscle.
Yeah.
And he said, you haven't worked out in a year. You have no business going into a gym.
Right.
He's like,
It's
we got to
gonna hurt.
start off stretching. So we picked out a stretching routine, and the next day I couldn't walk.
Yeah.
And so it's the
From
same
stretching.
thing from stretching.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with fasting. If you've never fasted before in your life, like and like a 14-day fast, this is not probably for
Right.
you. Mind you, we have had patients that do that. So sometimes with patients, we just start having them eat 3 meals a day within certain eating windows, and just not snacking in between, and then scaling down from there. So fasting is a lot like exercise in that
And
sense.
with many of the same benefits too.
Very many of
Yeah.
the same benefits. Yeah, it is fantastic. My husband quit going to the gym. He went to a gym that was within his company, and then towards the end of the year, right before he relocated to Toronto, he thought he would go back and start putting on weight. Because he's 6'4" and he's 165 pounds, so he's got to start putting on some muscle. And when he went back to the gym, he saw these guys who he used to gym with, and they said, "Man, you look fantastic. What have you been doing?" And he's like,
Not
"Nothing,
exercising.
Exactly.
not a damn thing."
Eating nothing.
And he said they just looked at him cross-eyed, like he was just totally like not willing to share his secret regimen with them. He's like, I do nothing. I just worked on my diet. So you get a lot of the same benefits. I gained 7 pounds of bone last year without doing weight training, just from doing longer fasts, because I was prohibited from doing any weight training for at least the first half of the year.
Well, it's amazing what you and Jason are doing. And in particular, thanks for this little insight, I think, is going to change a lot of people.
I think people, they get into the mind frame that fasting is so great, and fasting, for carb addiction, fasting works because it really regulates your hormones. And if you can regulate your hormones, you have so much more control over your desires. So they get into this mindset, fasting's really great and I'm not hungry, so I can fast all of the time. But then it actually works against them, while they're trying to maintain making progress and losing weight and persevering.
Well, next time I fast, I'm going to go all out for 3 or 4 days beforehand.
Yeah,
Me too.
absolutely.
Yeah, and see if that's going to.
Hey, I'm thinking Monday.
Well, we've been feasting for this week. We've everybody in the house has been cooking, and I actually I did it the wrong way around because I fasted for 5 days during my trip across to America, and I should have done it the other way around. I should have had my feast first.
Well, you can do it again.
Yeah, oh, thank you.
That's the beauty. I think I'm going to. I'm definitely going to. I know I'm going to when I get home. Thanks again, Megan.
Shake things up, guys. That's the best advice.
Shake it up, shake it off, and switch it up. All right. Thanks again.
Thanks, Megan.
Thanks, everybody.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm really taking this advice to heart. And since, as I say, we've gotten back from Breckenridge, you and I, this is an interesting story. Richard and I were going to fast for 2 or 3 days when we got to my house. And then we're like,
boy, that was a stupid idea.
Dumb idea. Here are 2 foodies, right? Yeah. We talk about cooking together all the time.
Yeah. We're rarely in the same kitchen.
Yeah. It's the first time we've ever been in the same kitchen.
So we fasted for about 32 hours, and then we thought, let's do some cooking.
Let's do some cooking. So we made some great food.
We did. But the good thing about it was we feasted first, and so that increases your metabolic rate.
Right.
And then, as Megan said, if you fast after you feast and your metabolic rate is high, you're going to burn through a lot of body fat very quickly.
So the interesting thing is it was just 1 day.
Right.
And I found that after we ate normal keto in the last couple of days, my weight's coming off.
Yeah.
Pounds are happening, like a pound a day.
Yeah, I've not stood on a scale for 2 weeks now, but I'm noticing a pair of jeans that I bought before I left Australia, which were snug then, are loose on me now. So I'm looking forward to seeing some weight loss.
Yeah.
It's not my major criteria because I'm pretty comfortable with the weight I'm at. But, I really look forward to using Megan's technique for busting off a plateau.
Yep, me too.
Yeah, so normally that would be a show, but we've got some recipes!
We're doing cocktails, kids.
We are.
Yep.
It's drinking time.
Yep. The idea of infusing hard liquor with bacon flavor.
Oh, yeah. How keto is that?
Came to us from my buddy Todd Evers.
Yep.
From the Mystic Meat Locker, who is going to be a vendor at Keto Fest.
Yeah.
And basically, these guys, they've all just recently gone keto. And by that, I mean in the last few days they started. But they make meats, cured meats. They make bacon. They make sausage. They make a Longino,
how good was
prosciutto,
that?
like
Sliced very fine, just delicious. It was like a solid slice of meat sauce.
Yeah. A kielbasa, they make that. So basically these guys just started making your standard cured meats. And then I told them about keto and about how the ketogenic community really needs sausages and meats that are high fat content, not cured with sugar.
Yeah.
Maybe a sweetener of some kind if you need sweet. And they took it and ran with it.
So these guys are going to be one of the vendors at Keto Fest, and I think they're going to be providing some charcuterie that we can take home with us. So, that's awesome.
All right, so my recipe is very simple. This is a technique for infusing bourbon with bacon flavor. Yeah, and essentially what you do is you take some bacon grease, halfway filled up in a receptacle that you can close.
Yeah, like a jar.
Like a jar, mason jar. And then you fill the rest with bourbon. And this should be at room temperature.
Right.
Yeah. And you're going to just shake it up, shake it until it's fairly emulsified, but it doesn't have to be emulsified. Just shake it up and get it all happy.
Yeah.
And then you essentially put it in the fridge for a little while and let it sit and steep. And what happens is it separates.
Right.
The fat comes to the top and the bourbon stays on the bottom.
And so all of the bacon flavors that are not fat, that are bound up in that fat, get dissolved into the alcohol.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, there is one thing about bourbon, and that is it gets dirty.
Okay.
And it gets cloudy when it gets dirty. And by dirty, I mean, if you just take a glass of bourbon, have a little drink, put it down on the counter and leave it there for a day, the next day, it's going to be putrid.
Really?
It's going to be cloudy. It's going to stink. It's going to be nasty.
Yeah.
Whatever the stuff is, maybe it's the fat from your face or your oils from your skin, that's going to get in there and you put it in the fridge, it gets cloudy.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah, that's what happens with bourbon. So it's going to be a little cloudy is what I'm saying. But don't worry about it because it's going to taste delicious. So what you do is leave it in there for a day or so.
Right. In the fridge.
In the fridge. And then it's going to separate. So you want to take poke a hole through that fat.
Right.
Maybe with a knife, maybe with a small toothpick or a knitting needle, and just pour out the bourbon underneath. You might need to strain it through a paper towel, through a fine mesh a couple of times in order to get the big chunks of fat out.
Right.
But the resultant bourbon is just delicious.
Delicious. So my recipe is kind of similar. I'm going to be going with hard liquor as well. But my hard liquor of choice today is vodka.
Vodka. Yeah.
So what I do is very similar.
Yeah.
So I have a jar half filled with bacon grease. And I fill it up with vodka and I cap it and I shake it. I warm it up so that the flavors of the bacon can get out from the fat and into the alcohol.
So it's same technique for the vodka, but you're going a step further and using that vodka in a cocktail.
Yeah, and I actually filter the vodka afterwards because for some reason with the bourbon, the fat was very separated, whereas with the vodka it emulsified in, so it was almost like mayonnaise.
Yeah.
So I needed to. So basically, what I did was take a coffee filter, put it in a funnel. And then poured I guess you could call it mayonnaise,
the mayonnaise.
Bacon vodka mayonnaise into the filter, and I let it stand overnight over the top of a bottle.
Yeah.
And that basically let all of the vodka go through. The fat stayed on the top, and then I'm just going to reuse that fat for cooking. That's just
why not?
Slightly vodka infused bacon fat. So now I have vodka that tastes of bacon. Now I had a taste of it, and it's okay. It's not a great experience, but it is definitely bacony.
Yeah,
it's got kind of like it's like a porky flavor.
Right, but it was a very strong bacon flavor.
It was a very strong, massively. And so what I found is you can increase the flavor of bacon by adding a little bit of salt to your vodka. So if you're just going to take a shot, salt it, and that tastes delicious.
Amazing.
So I wanted to take the next step and make this into a Bloody Mary.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to use regular tomato juice. I wanted to use a technique that I saw online from Jamie Oliver, which is to make clear tomato juice.
This is amazing. I didn't no idea you could do this.
Right.
And it works.
It works really well. So I took 3 tomatoes. I took the stems out and cut them into small bits and whizzed them up in a food processor.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so basically I was making a tomato puree.
Yeah.
I also added a bit of basil to this because basil and tomato go well together.
Yeah.
But it's the middle of winter here. We couldn't find fresh basil leaf, which I would normally prefer to use.
Yeah, I agree.
So I used some dry basil and I added it to a little bit of boiling water, so about a tablespoon of boiling water to kind of reconstitute the leaves, then add that to the tomato puree.
Uh-huh.
And so now I have tomato juice pureed. So I did the same trick with a funnel. I got the funnel, got a coffee filter inside.
Yeah.
I added the tomato puree to the top and I let it sit over the top of a bottle.
Overnight.
It took really, I mean, I probably had maybe a quarter of a cup of juice after maybe 6 hours, but leaving it overnight, basically all I was left with in the funnel was just dry tomato pulp. And the flavor of the tomato actually went through into that clear liquid.
Yeah.
It's almost totally clear. There was a couple of little drops of red in there that you can just pull out with a spoon.
And it does have a little bit of a reddish hue, but it is clear.
It is totally clear. And it looks like water and tastes totally of tomatoes. It's like a hyper attenuated tomato flavor.
It's amazing.
Now, the ratio that you use with the bacon vodka is 1 part of bacon vodka to 3 parts of tomato.
Yeah.
And then just stick a stick of celery in it, maybe a little bit of celery salt over the top.
Yep.
And
you could go Tabasco, or you could put
Tabasco.
a horseradish in there, whatever you like in your Bloody Mary.
Yeah. But it's going to be totally clear. It's going to look like a martini.
Yep. It's pretty awesome.
It is. It was delicious.
Nice.
So that's my recipe for the day. It's sort of like a clear keto Bloody Mary with bacon-infused vodka.
Nice. Well, that's a show, man.
That's a show. So, of course, if you have anything that you want to tell us, something we said wrong, something you don't agree with, or some more research that you found to support or refute anything that we've said, send it by email to dudes@twoketodudes.com or post it on our website.
And you can follow us on Twitter at 2KetoDudes, on Instagram at 2KetoDudes, and of course, if you want to join our forum, go to forum.2keto.com. And if useless swag is your fancy, T-shirts, coffee mugs, and other junk with witty keto sayings on it, head over to gear.2keto.com.
And if you feel like supporting our podcast and our forums, hit the donate button on our website at www.twoketodudes.com or just go to donate.2keto.com. You can also see our podcast and other videos on YouTube at youtube.2keto.com.
Well, keep calm and keto on.
Keep calm and keto on, Carl.
All right. And we'll see you next time
on 2 Keto Dudes.